Hello and welcome for everyone for joining us. Thank you very much for giving us some of your valuable time. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Adriaan Duvenage. I am the marketing manager at Cayman Enterprise City. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. Our webinar title is Going Global, Expanding Your Business to the Cayman Islands. We are joined by three gentlemen today, Mr. Charlie Kirkconnell. He is the CEO of Cayman Enterprise City. He will be discussing the advantages of establishing business within CEC's special economic zones and elaborating a bit more around the business environment of the Cayman Islands. We are also joined by Mr. Chris Humphries. He is Managing Director at Stuarts and Humphries. He is a legal expert in the Fintech and investment funds and also in the regulatory and compliance landscape in Cayman. Then we are also delighted to be joined by Mr. Grizzel. He is Head of Local Legal Services at Stuarts Humphries. He specializes in company formation, compliance, and corporate governance. Just a bit of housekeeping around the webinar. We aim to be in and out at less than an hour, which would be good. You see some of the points that we will be covering today. There is a chance for Q&A. We did ask that you pre-submit some of your questions. We have worked them in towards the end. There's also a Q&A function here, so if any questions do pop up, please add them, and if time allows, we'll work them in towards the end. And then before getting started, I thought it might be good just to have a quick recap and give some background about Cayman Enterprise City as well as Stuarts Humphries. So Charlie, before we get going, if I can quickly throw to you and just give us a bit of background around Cayman Enterprise City and the special economic zones.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Adriaan. Cayman Enterprise City is a special economic zone designed to attract knowledge and technology-focused businesses to set up a genuine physical presence here in the Cayman Islands. Launched as a project in February of 2012. So we have a lot of experience in helping businesses go global. And by that, we mean relocate and or just open an office in the Cayman Islands. A little bit more about our project and where we stand. We broke ground on our 76-acre mixed-use development prior to the pandemic and opened our first building on our what will be our mixed-use campus in March of 2024. And for 7 consecutive years, we've been awarded by the Financial Times, including as Best Free Zone in the Americas in the SME category in 2022 and 2023. Some milestones in addition to the groundbreaking and the opening of the first building. At year end 2024, we anticipate that we will have broken through the US $1 billion economic impact on Cayman's economy. So the purpose of the project was, of course, to establish the kind of a proverbial third pillar to the Cayman Islands economy, in addition to financial services and tourism. The idea there was that knowledge and technology focused businesses could be that third pillar. I'm happy to say that the project has been very successful. And I think that we are well on our way to being able to claim that we've contributed very significantly to the establishment of that third pillar. Currently, we finished the year end 2024 with over 380 businesses licensed into the SEZ, and we anticipate that by the end of this month we will exceed 400 businesses licensed and operating from within SEZ. To give you a flavor of what the SEZ is all about, there are and you can see them there on the screen. there are three what we kind of groupings within the SEZ. The first one being what we call Cayman Tech City. And that is comprised of Cayman Media Park, which is designed to attract businesses that are involved in the creation of original content for electronic publication and digital marketing and similar activities. Cayman Internet Park is all things ICT, including very importantly for CEC and for Cayman blockchain development. The Cayman Science and Technology Park is about designed to attract businesses that are involved in research and development on natural sciences, the development of medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and research and development of environmental technology. Our Cayman Commodities and Derivatives Center, which is a very, very important part of our, there are more businesses licensed into Cayman Tech City than into the Cayman Commodities and Derivatives Center. But as far as the number of people working within the parks, the Cayman Commodities and Derivatives Center is a very close second. Businesses set up in this park are typically have a larger footprint. So essentially what's licensable into the what we call the CCDC is businesses that are either trading physical commodities and or electronically trading commodities and or trading electronically trading derivatives products. Very, very importantly for us, the trading of virtual assets, whether as a proprietary trading or as an investment manager, fits within this park and is one of our most active business sectors. The Cayman Maritime and Aviation City speaks for itself. Business that are involved in maritime and aviation services are licensed, may be licensed into this park. That's my overview.
Thank you very much, Charlie. If we can throw it now over to Chris, if you can give us a bit of background around Stuart Humphries and what you guys do before we get going with the main presentation.
Yes, thank you. So Stuarts Humphries was established a little over 20 years ago. We're essentially a boutique funds practice. We specialize in funds and financial services and all related products, including litigation, local legal services, all in connection with the financial services market. We're recognized by the Legal 500 and Chambers and the IFLR as leaders in our field, and many of the lawyers working on our team are also highly regarded or leaders in their field by those leading directories. So, Cayman has been known for funds for well over 35 years and is the predominant jurisdiction for funds offshore in the world. So our competing jurisdictions such as Bermuda and BVI, Guernsey, Jersey, they don't really compete to any significant extent in the funds industry. And we've held that sort of rather enviable position now for many decades. So that leads nicely into this space, into fintech, into crypto, into all sorts of other interesting areas that have developed more recently. But so just to reiterate, Buck is head of our local legal services, and I'm head of the funds and the fintech team. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. If we can begin then, I'd like to turn back to Charlie. Charlie, can you possibly elaborate and walk us through why the Cayman Islands is regarded as such an attractive jurisdiction for international business?
Well, for many people, one of the first points is that Cayman is a tax neutral jurisdiction. So to the extent that businesses have global operations that would benefit from operating within a tax neutral environment. That's very, very often one of the, well, certainly the thing that gets a lot of our conversations started. As far as other things that our clients find attractive, we are easy to get to. So to the extent that you're maintaining some level of onshore presence or even just connectivity to to where you're currently located, let's say, there are many gateway cities that serve the Cayman Islands. So getting here from New York, Toronto, London, Charlotte, Miami, and even Los Angeles is one of the things that makes Cayman very attractive. It's very accessible, and also for most of the year on the same time zone, on the same time as New York. The other part of the year we are on Central Time, but an Eastern time zone is a very attractive feature for many of our clients. Some of which are looking at places like Dubai and Singapore and other places, maybe Zug or places even Portugal. But one of the things that it kind of sets us apart, especially for businesses that are located in North America, is that we're on a reasonably similar time zone, if not the same time zone. As far as what CEC does and how it adds to that, we offer we estimate that we save businesses that set up with us somewhere in the range of 40% of the setup and operational costs, ongoing operational costs for having a physical presence here in the Cayman Islands. We offer we can help clients get their setup done within 4 to 6 weeks, which for many of our clients is a very, very attractive feature. And I'll kind of maybe bring up something here that Buck may or may not remember. We used to work together a number of years ago, but we had a mutual client. I was in the funds department, and Buck was doing the local practice, helping businesses get set up. And Buck, I don't know if you'll remember this or not, but my client eventually, after about over a year, just gave up. They were trying to open an office in Cayman, and it became such a difficult thing to do that they just decided that they weren't going to bother with it. I don't know if you'll remember that, Buck, but anyway, I do, and I use that story, by the way. But
I don't remember it, but I believe you.
Yeah, I use this example quite frequently, basically to explain to people how difficult it can be to establish a physical presence, given all the hoops that you need to jump through. And CEC helps, and especially Economic Zone helps to cut through a lot of that, and a 4 to 6 week setup, including of your physical office space, is the norm. And then the last thing I'll say on this point is, and this for many of our clients is every bit as important as tax neutrality, ease of setup, cost savings, and so on. We offer a very vibrant and active community, and we host over 100 events per year. Some of them, I think we probably need to revise that upwards as well. I think because we've added a number of things over the past few months. But the events are sometimes they're as simple as a coffee morning where we invite everyone to get together to network, and sometimes they're more formal. For example, like a tech talk where we pick a topic, invite experts to come in and address that particular topic in a panel. A lot of the times they're focused on AI or virtual assets, and these events will attract in the range of 60 to 80 or more people. The part of the purpose of all of this is networking, knowledge sharing, and for many of our clients, again, the idea that they're joining a vibrant, active, cutting edge community that is looking at some of the most important topics within their particular field of expertise has become a very important reason why people are choosing to set up with us.
Thank you very much for that, Charlie. Now, if we can throw over to Stuart Humphries, I'd like if we can dive into the legal side of things. Chris, maybe if you can talk more towards the regulatory and legal standpoints of what should businesses consider when looking at Cayman.
Yes, thank you. So back in 2018, Cayman had already had a well-established funds industry and a financial services industry. It had a really robust companies law, partnership law, and it introduced enhanced AML legislation, beneficial ownership regime, economic substance regime, and the Virtual Asset Service Providers Act, which was and the new Foundation Act, Foundation Companies Act. So we were able to, so it already had this very well established and good legislation, great regulation from the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority that regulates all regulated entities in Cayman, banks, insurance companies, managers, fund administrators, VASPA entities, and so on and so forth. What happened in 2018 and subsequent years is that the new legislation, it's calmed down a lot now, but there was a few years of a lot of new types of entities that were brought online. The LLC, the new LLC, for example. And with this new AML regime and the VASPA legislation, we're able to, and the foundation and the enhanced AML, it all came together at the right time, because that's when, for example, crypto and those sort of tech industries took off, and the foundations were immediately popular with crypto platforms, for DAOs, for those sort of entities. The AML enhanced regime was perfect for the sort of KYC that needed to be used for those entities. And so what we've got now is, we've been working with that legislation for the last 5+ years, is that we've got a really good, robust system which can offer any product just about for crypto funds, for token issuing entities, NFTs, STOs, any kind of Web3 blockchain products, set up crypto exchanges, etc., etc. The funds to set up a fund, which is very popular at the moment, to invest into crypto, that's sort of seen, I guess, 80% of our new work in the funds industry would be in that space. And once the fund offering documents are in place, and it can take a couple of weeks, just to go back to Charlie's point about time, speed, and efficiency. Once we've got the offering document drafted, and we need a couple of weeks to do that, we can register a fund in Cayman with the Monetary Authority in 3 days, and that's just, that's unmatched in other jurisdictions. I know that from experience. So it takes a little longer if we're looking at virtual asset service providers, but it's still on par with other jurisdictions. And this is where the SEC comes into place, because with our economic substance, if you're setting up a fund manager, for example, you need economic substance in Cayman, and the SEC will provide that economic substance, and it provides a very, very nice solution, not just for fund management, but a host of economic substance. Just to give some backstory to that. Approximately 3-4 years ago, It was decided by the OECD that the offshore jurisdictions, if they were going to house intellectual property or fund management or a host of other activities, those activities should show core income generating activities being undertaken in Cayman. And there's a few ways you can do that. But one nice solution is the SEZ, because once you've got a physical presence in the SEZ, that will, in most cases, suffice for your economic substance. So it's a very nice, quick solution for economic substance in many cases. Now, each industry has different core income generating activities which need to be reviewed and looked at. But as I say, in many cases, and especially in case of fund management, the SEZ is a nice solution. So yeah, I think I'll stop there. Back to you.
Yeah, so my next question was leading into it is that you are and have worked extensively with fintechs and in the digital asset space, and how we support business around that. Would you want to elaborate any further on that?
Yeah, so we were one of the first law firms, not the first law firm to take on ICOs, as it was back then in late 2018, and we in the beginning of 2018, and during 2018 we set up 200 ICOs. That was before the Virtual Asset Service Providers Act. These were basically Cayman exempted companies set up to issue new coins. Those later became STOs, NFTs, and later we started dealing with DAOs, and we've set up some exchanges, we've set up custodians, and a lot of token issuing entities we've registered with CEC. So we're very heavily in that space, probably the predominant law firm in Cayman for advising on that fintech space. So yeah, since Sebastian has come in, we're still advising on STOs and DAOs, and as I say, we're getting a lot of inquiries. There's a lot of interest in setting up funds. Now the industry's matured to a point where it's complicated, and investors who want to get into the market can't really do it themselves because they need assistance, either setting up a wallet to hold the underlying assets, or just knowing what to hedge, how to hedge their investments, or how to spread their investments between hundreds of different STOs. It's perfect for a fund. A fund set up in this way, you have a manager who knows his stuff. He can invest into the crypto space very well. So funds typically using segregated portfolio companies, and I'll just talk to that for a second. We've got segregated portfolio companies in Cayman that can set up separate pots or pools, which are segregated from the assets and liabilities from one another. So if one goes under, it doesn't affect the assets of a good portfolio. And that means you're operating a simple company, which operates in many ways like having lots of companies in one. So from a separation of assets, from what we traditionally think of as segregating your liability. So you have, and you can launch a new segregated portfolio with an entirely new class of investments in a matter of hours, and that through a private fund or through a mutual fund. And I'll lead on, just if I may, just to outline the two main legislations we have here for funds. We have the mutual funds, which is for open-ended entities where investors will have the right to redeem their shares. In other words, they'll be able to say, I want to give you 30 days notice or 60 days notice to get out of the fund. So those are more liquid type funds, liquid investments. And then we have, and so that's dealt with by the private funds regime. And similar to that, we've got the private funds regime, which is for closed-ended entities, where there is no right of redemption, and then that's for things like real estate, where they're not easily liquidated, the assets, and so you can't give the investors unlimited access to redeem. So that's a little bit on the funds industry and the legislation around it. Yeah, but would you like to just talk about the local, what you do and the legal side on that.
Yeah. So I'm head of local legal services, and local legal services includes the incorporation of companies, the registration of companies, licensing, and a big part of my practice is the registration and onboarding of special economic zone companies. I think I should, just to draw a comparison, just give a bit of information about setting up outside of the zone. So if you made the decision to move your business to Cayman, then you need to set up a company, but you also have to then find an office. You may need to outfit that office. You have to lease it or purchase that office. You may want to lease or purchase residential property as well, which we deal with. You need to get the company licensed with a trade and business license from the Trade and Business Licensing Board. And then you need to get work permits for your staff that are expatriate staff that will move here. You may need assistance with customs, importing goods. Perhaps you bring in a pet. You need assistance with bringing a pet dog in. You need assistance from the agriculture department. So there's several different aspects that we can assist with, and we do assist with, for clients who do not fit into the zone. If your business fits into the special economic zone, it's a lot easier and simpler and certainly more cost effective. I'm happy to tell clients that it is more cost effective to be in the special economic zone that Cayman Enterprise City has set up, because they offer a one-stop shop. Now, law firms are going to incorporate the company. We're going to provide them with a registered office for the company. CEC does not do that, but they will assist with the license in conjunction with the law firm that you're working with. They deal with the work permit application. They're providing that office space for you, and they'll assist with importing goods and getting your pet dog in. So it's a one-stop shop, and I'm happy when I find a client that can qualify for that, because the biggest savings is going to be on work permit fees. If you qualify for admission into the special economic zone, you don't pay that $15,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 annual work permit fee that you may have to if you're not in the zone. You can still come and set up and pay that fee, but it's more economical, and there's certainly savings. I've seen numbers 40-50% savings for some clients because they qualify for admission into the special economic zone. So if a client contacts me through our website or some of our other marketing efforts, we're going to consider whether or not they qualify for admission into the special economic zone. Once they do, we introduce them to Cayman Enterprise City, and we work closely with Cayman Enterprise City to set up the company, get the trade and business license, get the trade certificate from the authority, and get your work permit if assistance is needed from us. But normally we're just involved in getting the trade certificate, setting up the company, and getting the trade certificate for you. And that's what we do, and that's what we work closely with CEC on.
Buck, may I ask a question? What is the time frame? I actually don't know this for going through the trade and business licensing application process outside of the SEZ, applying for work permits outside of the SEZ, identifying and fitting out and furnishing. Well, that part of it probably is not something that well, maybe you have some involvement in that. What is the time frame outside the SEZ for getting set up with a trade and business license, work visas, and so on?
I think best case is 6 months.
Right. Okay, that's the answer I was fishing for.
Charlie, while we're busy with that, could you possibly elaborate a bit from CEC's side of what the value of Stuarts Humphries and a company like that is, and what value they add and where they fit in from CEC side, and how CEC and Stuarts Humphries will work together?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Buck, I think, has already kind of talked us through it but I think maybe I could maybe add a little bit to it in that, as Buck alluded to, CEC does not have a company's management license, so we do not get involved in helping you set up your company and so on. So there are things that we don't do. There are things that Stuarts Humphries does, and through over the last 13 plus years of working together, we've worked out a great system of who does what and when, and so so that it's a seamless and kind of just a very well coordinated process. As far as we go, what we will do on the zone trade certificate application side, we have an electronic online portal that helps to guide the process and keeps it on track and efficient. Before, when we used to use PDFs, we would get into arguments with clients, sort of, about we're still waiting on you to send us this document. We sent you that document. No, I've checked back through all the emails. I don't see it. Can you send it again, or can you send it? I said, well, all right, well, we'll send it again. And then the confusion over, then we review it, and now we have to, there's something that needs to be corrected, and we send it back by email with the manuscript markings or whatever. That whole process we've moved past with our online portal that again organizes the process. We send smart forms out to our clients to complete that indicate what documents are required to be uploaded in support of that particular part of the application, and what are the requirements for that document, as in, does this one need to be certified, and who can certify, and so on. All of that information is contained within our online portal, which helps to keep the application process efficient and on track. And we offer the same for the work visa application process. And we find that part of the reason why we're able to do it within 4 to 6 weeks is that we have a great working relationship when we're working with Stuarts Humphries. We have a great working relationship where we each know what we're supposed to do. And then from our side of it, the electronic portal keeps everything on track and essentially efficient.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I think as we are running a bit tight on time, I think it'll be good if we could move on to the Q&A section. I'm going to direct a couple of questions that we received with the RSVPs. If any of you think it's applicable and have answers towards those, please chip in and feel free to take them. One of the questions we received is, how does Cayman compare to the BVI or Saint Martin in terms of tax, administration, and ease of setting up banking for a company?
Yeah, I'll take that one if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
I used to be so much kinder on BVI a few years ago, and I get asked this question a lot because, BVI has a new VASPA legislation, and I think it's a lot faster to set up your VASPA in BVI. I don't think that the token issuing entities, I understand, are regulated, but don't hold me to that, because we don't advise on BVI law. But what you don't get in BVI in particular is the sort of financial sophistication by the regulators or the advisors. To speak frankly, and quite directly, if you excuse me, but the quality of the regulators in BVI and the lawyers that deal with this industry are just uncomparable compared to Cayman. The responsiveness and the sophistication are worlds apart, and this is reflected in the type of entities that are set up there, clients that are attracted to BVI, and then you can see that in the issues which they have, the issues which surround the controversy around BVI, started with the Panama, started long before the Panama Papers, culminated in the Premier being arrested for financial fraud and drug dealing by the FBI in Miami. It's a different type of product. I get it that we both do VASPA, but that's where the comparisons, frankly, begin and end. There's no comparison in the product or the confidence that you're going to give your investors if you set up in BVI compared to Cayman. So, and that's very direct, but there's no other way to speak frankly. You know, we don't say it as it is. It's a different product. I mean, so 95% of my days spent working in this industry. If you set up a fund in BVI, you'll get a lawyer who might do one fund a year. You know, this is just the level of the focus isn't there.
Thank you very much for your input there, Chris. Another question we received is around exempt funds in the Cayman Islands, around cost structures, timeframes, regulatory requirements.
Yeah. So to set up an exempted company, once all the onboarding is done, and the onboarding is engagement letter, KYC, retainer, instructions on who the directors and shareholders should be, the company can be set up on the same day basis with an additional fee of about $1,000, or on a regular basis, 3 to 5 working days. So, you know, within the week, we can take instructions and have the company incorporated. Now, that's assuming that we're not regulating it with CEMA. It isn't carrying on a regulated activity. It's not. It's, you know, that we've dealt with the economic substance requirements. So the devil's in the detail there. So what is the company going to do? What are the activities it's going to carry out? If it's going to be in the SEZ, then that's a different process in addition to the incorporation. But just looking at the exempted companies and the setup time, it really is super fast. Yeah, it is super fast.
Thank you very much. And Chris, while we're busy, seeing as you are expert on the topic, for companies in the digital asset and blockchain space, what are the key compliance and regulatory frameworks in Cayman?
In the VASPA space?
Yes.
Well, there are there's a long list of compliance requirements in, you know, data protection, cybersecurity, AML, travel rules, policies. There are about 14 different policies which you need to get through the licensing process at CEMA. If you are, I'm assuming you're talking here about either a token issuing entity or a custodian or an exchange. We have all those policies. We'll make it painless. We'll draft them and present them to you with a few questions to answer to get you through that process. That's why you come to us. So yes, there are lots of policies and you know, regulatory requirements. In most cases, when you're regulated with CEMA, and we're talking here of, you know, token issuing entities or custodians, exchanges, or most other things, you are required to have a local auditor appointed. So we'll put you in touch with the local auditors in Cayman, and you know, to strike up that relationship. But that's it. That's the only local requirement you need, unless you're setting up in the SEZ, and then you've got a real presence in Cayman. So yeah, it's there are a lot. I mean, the regulation is serious, and that's why it's got the reputation it has. And our job is to make it painless, quick, and easy for the clients.
Thank you very much.
One thing, if I may add, and we do get this question from at least from time to time. You know, the special economic zones licensing process is not a substitute for registration or licensing with CEMA if you are required by the relevant laws to be either licensed or registered by CEMA. So the SEZ process is about being entitled to set up a physical operation here and apply for work permits and operate from within the Cayman Islands. And I think this is obviously from Cayman's perspective a big positive is that the businesses that are engaged in regulated activity will still need to be regulated by CEMA in respect of that activity. The registrations or licensing or whatever fits together seamlessly, and each one serves its own purpose. But and this is a positive concern for many of our clients is that they don't want to be in licensed within a regime that somehow short circuits the very robust and right-sized regulatory and legislative environment that governs what is regulated activity in the Cayman Islands.
That's a very good point. Yes, of course. So there are sort of three levels, I guess, making it up arbitrarily, but you could say there's 3 levels. You could have a simple company, an exempted company, which doesn't have a presence here and doesn't carry on regulated activity, and it's just set up to be a holding company of equity or be a holding company of shares or equity in another entity, maybe somewhere else. And that doesn't require any physical presence, any economic substance, so to speak of, and certainly no regulation. And then you could have a business which wants to have a presence in Cayman, wants to be able to operate from here, or has other reasons to set up a minded management in Cayman, either from a tax or regulatory perspective onshore, and wants to show that it has a physical presence in Cayman. Or it actually simply somebody wants to be here to work and enjoy a lovely island, and wants to be properly licensed and regulated with the work permits and the physical space to do that. And then you've got the economic zone that takes care of all that. And then you look at the activity, and if it's a regulated activity, you need to go and get registered or licensed with the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority. So that's a separate step, and it only applies to businesses which are carrying on a very limited number of activities. For example, registered fund, for example, or fund manager, for example. So those entities would have to get licensed with CEMA. But in most cases, I suspect, and Charlie, you can speak to this, so in most cases at the SEC, your entities are not probably regulated by CEMA, correct? They're probably a small number of them.
There's around 25 SEZ entities that have either a license under the Securities Investment Business Act or the Virtual Asset Service Providers Act. So it does happen depending. So we do have entities that are involved in regulated activity that also qualify for licensing into the SEZ. And that is another place, by the way, where that is another thing that CEC does not handle. And that's another place where CEC and Stuarts Humphries would work together on getting you properly set up and licensed.
So less than 10%, maybe 8% of your entities are CEMA regulated, and then so in short, then it's fair to say that set up an exempted company, we can get that done in 3 to 5 days, even without express. Another 5 days you're set up in, how long do you say for the SEC? 5 days. 5 weeks. 4 weeks, excuse me, 4 weeks. So you're talking about just over a month from beginning to end to be up and running with all fully registered and licensed and ready to go in Cuba if you're not regulated.
Thank you, Rich. I think we have time for one or maybe two more questions. Charlie, if you can elaborate, we received a question just about more clarity around the different special economic zones that we have and how one would go ahead to determine which zone would best fit your company. If you could just quickly elaborate on that.
But before we do, sorry, I just to explain why I thought it was 5 days, not 5 weeks. Am I still right in thinking if you've got a new employee in the SEZ, you can get a work permit in a matter of, right?
Yeah, Charlie can confirm that.
Yeah, it's a 5 working day process.
5 working days.
Once the application is submitted, it typically takes people in the range of 10 to 14 days to prepare the application, but it can be done very quickly.
Yeah, and that's a huge advantage that has to be sort of highlighted, because if you've set up already in the SEC and you've got a new person coming down to Cayman, you need a work permit for them, you can get it done in super fast time. If you did it outside the zone, you're talking about, well, if you're not talking about temporary, it's
2 months.
2 months. 2 months. So you're 2 months delay getting someone to the island. So that's a big advantage for the SEC. Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to get that point in. I knew I had 5 things in my head, but that's the reason why. Charlie, back to you.
Yeah, no worries. And I think I remember the question, Adriaan, which was, how do you select the appropriate park within the SEZ? And so what we normally do is have a conversation with someone who is interested in getting set up. And one of the first things that we talk about, is eligibility, and which is the appropriate park. And we work through that in a conversation. Sometimes it's also helpful to the extent that we haven't nailed it down. We have a number of knowledge documents that relate to each of the parks within the SEZ. And they include it includes a section on the scope of the particular park and some sample business cases that illustrate the types of activity that have been successfully licensed into the SEZ. But again, coming back to the first part of the question, we like to have a conversation with anybody that might be interested. And then we work with you through the process of identifying eligibility and the appropriate park.
Thank you very much, Charlie. And then I think we have time for one last one. A question received is for businesses that want to expand to Cayman but may not immediately relocate employees. Do any of the employees need to be a resident in Cayman to maintain a legal presence?
No is the answer, but you want to expand?
You can answer some sense issue, but it depends on business activity.
Yeah.
It depends on the business activity.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is you can be in the SEZ and never be here and never work. That's one end of the spectrum. But obviously, you'd expect them to be here, otherwise why would they be the SEC? So, but that's at one end of the spectrum. Then you could have somebody who's here just a week a year or 2 months a year. It's entirely up to the client, right? And if they're trying to satisfy economic substance requirements, then they'll be here to the extent they need to be to satisfy the relevant economic substance requirements. But the short answer is there's no requirement to be resident or live here in order to set up in the SEC. So then you dial back from that as to what is desired or necessary.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. I would want to, from our side, thank Chris, Buck, and Charlie. Thank you guys very much for joining us today and giving us some of your time. I'm sure the participants and the viewers definitely learned a few things. I definitely did. Is there any final remarks from any of you before we sign off?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Certainly, I hope you circulate our email contact details. Absolutely. In case anyone has any other questions. We're happy to take them.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Some people do ask me if I charge for initial calls. No, we don't. If you want to shoot me an email with any questions, I'd be happy to jump on a call and have a chat. If you have any questions at all in relation to anything we discussed, or have any further questions, just reach out, and soon you'll get my contact details.
Okay. And the same for me. To kind of going back to the last question that I was asked. We love to have a conversation, even if sometimes it ends up with unfortunately this doesn't work for the SEZ. We always like to have a conversation in any event, talk things through. So if anybody is thinking about possibly setting up a physical presence, a genuine physical presence here in Cayman, we'd love to have a conversation with you. And if there's a role for CEC, that's fantastic. If not, then you will work with Stuarts to set up an entity outside the zone or do whatever else that doesn't work in the SEZ. But again, we always enjoy having a conversation with people to talk through possibilities. And then the last thing I'd like to say is that the point that I wanted to make earlier, but I didn't. Another very important feature of the SEZ and the Cayman Enterprise City SEZ is that it is built on a solid legislative and regulatory foundation, which has proven to be very, very important to many of our global clients who want to make sure they want the certainty of knowing and the transparency that comes along with a Special Economic Zones Act, regulations to that Special Economic Zones Act, and an oversight authority that monitors activity within the SEZ. And for many of our clients, that's they have people they have to answer to, whether it might be their shareholders or their clients. Why are you in Cayman? What's the basis of your the concessions that you're being offered in the Cayman Islands? Being able to say, well, if you'd like to take a look, it's everything is set out in the law, in the regulations, and for many of our clients, that level of transparency and certainty is a very, very important feature.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you very much for everyone who joined us today. I would just like to also lastly say that this session has been recorded, and the recording will be shared out to everyone afterwards, along with contact information of all three of our participants today. And then a lot of the questions that have not been covered, we do have those questions, and someone from our team or Stuart's team will definitely be in contact with you if we were not able to cover those. So yeah, thank you guys very much, and have a lovely day, and look forward to the next one.
All right.
Bye all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.